Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm James and we are continuing on with this Balsa USA Stingray 120 build. So in this video, I'm going to be installing the engine mount. So again, I'm going to be using this DLE-20 RA rear exhaust gas engine, and I'm going to be installing it inverted, or basically upside down. So of course the plane here is upside down and it's going to be installed in here like this. So in addition to installing the engine mount, also have to install the cheek doublers, which are going to go on either side inside of the engine compartment. And also I have this triangular stock, which is going to be used to reinforce on either side of the firewall. And it says in the instructions that I'll probably have to cut some of this to kind of work around. Perhaps if the engine mount gets in the way, I'll have to maybe trim this a little bit, and then on the other side where the blind nuts are going to be for the mounting of the engine, I'll have to maybe trim it a little bit also in order to get it to fit. But either way, we're going to reinforce the firewall. So in addition to the engine mount, which I'll talk about just in a few minutes here, I will be mounting the engine using, these are 1/4 by 20 by 1.5 inch cap screws. And you can see them right there. I got 4 of those guys. They may be a little bit on the long side, so I may have to cut them back. Once I get them installed, I'll figure out how long they need to be, and I'll trim them back as needed, because I don't want them to protrude too far into the firewall, because I don't want to poke anything in there. And then on that side of the firewall, again, we'll be using our T-nuts, again, 1/4 by 20 T-nuts here. Okay, well, before we get started, I want to point out a few things. First of all, here's the thrust line for the engine. And one thing to note is that there is no angled thrust line. There's no down thrust and there's no side thrust. And there's nothing mentioned about it in the instructions, and there's nothing mentioned about it on the plans. And when I did some looking in some older forums and such, it is noted by others that there's no angled thrust line for this build, which is kind of interesting because usually there is one. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it like that, and if it does become an issue later, I can probably adjust the engine if I have an issue with something like that. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and just follow the instructions and just follow that thrust line as it's indicated there. The other thing I wanted to point out, you may recall from a few videos back, is that because I'm going to be installing the engine inverted, I chose to close off the upper portion of the engine compartment using these blocks of balsa, which I did here. Now, one thing that I realized is that when I put the engine mount, and I'll kind of line it up where it needs to go, you will see that it actually extends beyond the top of this original sort of cheek area, and it extends up into these blocks that I put on. And not only that, if I put the engine there, let me move this out of the way. Same thing for the engine, obviously. It's barely have enough room. So what I had to do was, let me flip the plane over, as I had to go back and remove, kind of hollow out those wood blocks so that the engine would fit, which it does now, which I did off camera, obviously. And I may even have to cut like a little window in there to be able to access the mixture adjustment screws on the carburetor. Because again, engine's going to be mounted like this inside here, and I wouldn't be able to get to those carburetor adjustment screws because it'd be closed off. So I may have to end up putting like a little window in here, which I don't have a problem with. That'll be okay. Okay, well, that's going to be about it for this video. Got the engine mount installed, and I got the reinforcements installed for the firewall. And you may have noted that, I kind of bounced around a little bit here and there when I was doing some of these different things, some of these steps, especially when it came to sort of measuring the center lines of the engine mount and getting everything lined up on the firewall. you know, sort of, for me, it's sort of a trial and error process, trying to just make sure everything's straight. So I kind of go back and forth, and maybe there are some easier ways to do it, but in any case, I think it turned out okay. So the engine will slide right in here just like this. And I'm just going to wait until the next video in this series to actually drill it out and install the engine, at least on a temporary basis. We'll get it installed, and then we'll take it back out so that I can continue working with the plane. All right, well, thanks again for watching my channel and tagging along with me on this build. I always appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.